What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. No live show this week because we are traveling. My name is TJ Zwarich. I will be your host for today, editor-in-chief of agentsofandom.com, and I'm headed to the Calgary Expo. Just a wild assortment of guests at the Expo with Hayden Christensen and Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, David Harbour, Andy Serkis. It's going to be a hell of a time. I can't wait. Hopefully going to get some interviews cooking. Joined, as always, by my wonderful friend and co-host, director of content and editorial here at Agents of Fandom, Garrett Blaney.
What's up, man? Yeah, super exciting weekend for you, for us. Happy to get this in, get a recording in before you get off to your busy weekend. But yeah, you named about 4 or 5 really awesome people there, and there's still like 20 more on the list. Like, we could be talking about that for a long time. So excited to see what you cook up this weekend.
I am so excited. There's been a couple of pretty decently big cancellations, which is disappointing, but the amount of guests they have is just, it's so incredible that it's not really going to matter. We got the voice actors for Optimus Prime and Superman and Wonder Woman. We got Sam Raimi. We got Stephen Amell. We got Emily Swallow, the armorer from The Mandalorian. We got Bonnie Wright, aka Ginny from Harry Potter. Harvey Guillen from What We Do in the Shadows. It's going to be a lot of fun. But none of those guests compare to the guests we have on the Agents of Fandom podcast today. Our friend from thedirect.com, Richard Nebens. How you doing, buddy?
You guys are always too kind. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's great to be back. Love you guys.
Yeah, we miss you
too, brother. We missed you. It's been too long. You fired me a message today, and it was perfect timing because Adam's not able to join us today. We didn't have a guest lined up because we were rescheduling this all around, and you were like, hey, we should link up again soon. And I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And so it worked out pretty perfectly. I have a very, very important question for the two of you before we begin today, because we're going to be talking a little DC. We're talking The Flash. We're going to talk a little Marvel. It's our Guardians of the Galaxy primer. But before we do that, I need to know, can you hear my washing machine in the background?
Just a tiny bit, but I think we should be okay. When we're talking, it feels like it's not quite as bad.
True. Right. I thought it was dog paws on the hardwood.
That's what I was thinking too. I thought it was your dog.
All right. Next time you guys are talking, I'll mute and I'll slide myself out of here and close this door. Give us a little more quiet time. Give us the intimate experience. Allow everyone to have the best possible listening experience. And we're going to break down this DC Flash trailer for all of you today. And then we're going to give you the best damn Guardians of the Galaxy primer you have ever listened to.
Agents of ASMR.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get into it. No more of that.
You're fucking our listeners. Let's just get around to it.
Ow. I think that'll be the last time that ever happens on this podcast.
Yeah, we don't need to do that again. We're probably going to do it again, but
yeah, it's going to say.
I got some laughs. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. Let's talk about The Flash, because at CinemaCon in Vegas this weekend, the lucky attendees got to screen The Flash, an unfinished cut. It might still adjust a little bit in terms of VFX. They didn't get to see the post-credit scenes, but they did get to see the film itself. And while there are a few people kind of saying that in the final act, it gets a little crazy and comic booky and fan servicey, guess what? I don't care. That actually makes me more excited. Outside of the Ezra Miller stuff, and obviously we know all of the allegations they've had against them, and that kind of does take away a little bit of excitement. Outside of that, this looks like a pretty darn good movie. They also just released a brand new trailer. Rich, what did you think about the trailer? And did anybody at the Direct, were they at CinemaCon getting to see that one?
We did not have anybody at the Direct for CinemaCon, so that was kind of a bummer. Hopefully next time. But major Batman vibes from this trailer, obviously, and I could not be happier for it. I mean, part of me just wishes this were called like The Flash and Batman, because I think Michael Keaton is going to steal the show, just as everybody.
Let me do you one better. Supergirl and Batman.
Okay. I can roll with that. Yeah, no, Michael Keaton is just going to blow this one out of the water. I mean, this guy's going to come back after 30 years and not only play Batman again, but be pretty damn good as Batman in a 2023 movie. I did not have this on my bingo card probably ever until those rumors first started popping up. But this is going to be awesome. I really loved him in the trailer. Sasha Callie as Supergirl was really cool. I'm really curious to see how they work her into this new and ever-changing DC universe. I really hope she actually gets a chance to keep going after this movie just because of all the changes that are going to happen under James Gunn. But I'm cautiously optimistic for this movie. And from what everybody's saying, we're in for a really good one.
David Zaslav said it's the best superhero movie he's ever seen. Now, obviously, he runs WB, so he's a little biased here. I'm not sure if it's going to be quite that great, but it does sound pretty exciting based on all the reviews. Garrett, what have you seen based on the footage you've witnessed so far and the reactions? Like, how does that kind of increase or decrease your hype level?
Someone said the only two superhero movies that David Zaslav has ever seen are The Flash and Batgirl. So that would make that statement that way nothing. So that's just, I had to point that out real quick.
Hashtag save Batgirl. And also, I was like, the slight disrespect I was showing to this movie, to be clear, that was to Ezra Miller, not the character of the Flash. The Flash, right, one of my favorite DC characters, more Wally West than Barry Allen, but I love them all. Sorry, Garrett, take it away.
No, that leads me into what I was about to say is it's hard to, like, I'm mad at how excited for this movie I am because it looks really freaking awesome and there's just so much obviously the path to get here has just been, it could be a movie in and of itself. But it feels wrong to want to watch and cover this movie as much as I do. The hype coming out of CinemaCon is just makes me feel that way even more. I'm excited to see whatever this, supposed reset is that's coming. The ending, how it bridges well into the new DCU that I've read is exciting. Rich, to your point about Michael Keaton killing it, I think what would have been bigger news is him not killing it, to be honest. So to me, that news is par for the course. Hearing how good the story is.
Jason Waterfalls.
The more
how underrated Michael Keaton performance, the other guys.
My gosh. I love that movie. You derailed my train of thought.
I'm sorry. That's the second time I've done it too. I didn't mean to. I just couldn't.
Second time. It's actually the millionth time ever that you've done it. But
but on actually 8 minutes of this episode.
No. Michael Keaton not killing it would be more a surprise. I remember that's where you left off.
Right. I mean, but yeah, hearing the emotional beats and how good the story is what really excites me. Like you said, TJ, the craziness of the second act, from the few people that have mentioned it, doesn't necessarily deter me from it. And hearing how it kind of recaps the history of, like live action DC movies sounds kind of cool as well. There's a lot, I think, to look forward to. But God damn it, I'm mad. I'm mad that I'm so excited.
I'm kind of with you there. It feels so similar to like, we're going to be covering Loki season 2. And I'm sure Ezra Miller is going to give a great performance in The Flash. I'm sure Jonathan Majors in in Loki season 2 will be impeccable. I have no doubt about that. But it takes away from covering it, the enjoyment of watching it, just when you're unable to separate the performer from the person, because you know damn well that these people have caused a lot of pain for other people. And so it takes away from it. And then at the same time, like, it's not exactly the easiest to be an ethical consumer in a capitalistic society anyways. Basically everything we're enjoying or supporting is probably shitty in some way, shape, or form.
I'm excited to move past it.
I'll say that.
Me too. Me too.
And that's not even counting all the Aquaman 2 stuff we're going to have to deal with at the end of the year. So once we get past like this year, I think things are going to be so much easier for us. Hopefully, fingers crossed that they are, because we need it. But still, I'm looking forward to The Flash and seeing what happens. I wish that this had come out 5 years ago like it was supposed to. That's going to be my last comment on it, because it has been a hell of a ride getting here. But we have a Flash movie coming out, and hopefully it's going to be good.
And when I hear things like there's so much fan service in a movie like this, where we're going to be time traveling, an ode to the history of DC movies, that honestly gets me so excited. Like, if we get a minute or two scene with George Clooney as Bruce Wayne, or if we get Brandon Routh popping back in as being Superman, or we get Tyler Hoechlin in there doing some Superman, if Henry Cavill is secretly in this movie as a quick appearance, who knows? Whatever it is, all of those kind of possibilities are so exciting. And then you also look at things like the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths, and how their Flash, when he was interacting with the multiverse in that series, interacted with Ezra Miller's Flash. It'd be so cool if we kind of get to see the other side of that one, because we know one of these Flashes is going to be a younger version, a very inexperienced version. The other one is going to be more experienced. And with that being the case, like in that scene in Crisis in Infinite Earths, Barry actually, like, the DCU's Barry actually gets his name, the Flash, from the CW's Barry. That's the first time he actually ever hears himself being referred to himself as the Flash. And so it'd be really cool to see the other end of that scene if we get Grant Gustin in here. And then, like, my hope and my dream, obviously talking about how much we love Michael Keaton as Batman, would be if we get a post-credit scene of just like him back in his universe. We know there's going to be a reset of the DC universe. We don't know where that's going to leave all these kind of past properties we've seen. Will it be a multiversal thing? Will they get erased? It would be a dream for me to like have a post-credit scene of Michael Keaton back in his bat cave, just being like, I'm too old for this. I got to find somebody else. And it just kind of like leads us into a potential Batman Beyond property in the future where Keaton's playing an old Bruce Wayne. Bring Terry McGinnis here. It doesn't matter that they have Reeves as Batburst. It doesn't matter that they're doing Batman Brave and the Bold. There is no pop culture character outside of Spider-Man who can house these multiple stories going on at the same time and bring people into the theater, bring people into streaming services like those two can. And so I would totally be okay with them leaving that here in as well. But a movie we're even more excited about, and that's coming sooner than The Flash is going to be, is right here at the beginning of May. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm assuming that's what most of you here came for. And I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, but we're not done with Star Wars. You know, May 4th is coming up. May the Force be with you. May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars Day, and on Star Wars Day, launching on Disney Plus, is Star Wars Visions. And at the end of this episode, we're actually going to be attaching my interviews from Star Wars Visions with Jackie Lopez, Josh Rhimes, and I am forgetting the name of the third person off the top of my head, but I am definitely going to have that ready for the end of the episode when we segue over. And they're all big, high up executives over at Lucasfilm. And we talked about Visions. We talked about the potential to bring some of these characters into the Star Wars canon. So make sure you stay tuned for our Star Wars interviews we got cooking at the end of this one as well. But let's talk some Guardians of the Galaxy, because this is another movie that we are going to be having some fun interviews here for our own Ryan Cortero, our wonderful social media manager and guru, senior writer, member of our leadership team. We would be absolutely screwed without him. He's going to be going to the Canadian premiere of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're going to be getting some sit-down in-person interviews with Sean Gunn, as well as Shakwudi Awuji, who plays the High Evolutionary in this one. And some of the early reactions are saying that this is the best on-screen villain we have seen since Thanos. And so really exciting stuff. There's some of the early reactions to this going, best movie since Endgame, best villain since Thanos. Crying sadly, crying happily, just absolutely incredible. 2.5 hours of emotions and fun. Garrett, we obviously kind of expected this one to be good, but with this, not a major drop in quality from Endgame, but not a drop in quality from the other things we got in phase 1 and phase 2 throughout the MCU here in phase 4, but especially with projects like Thor, The Dark World, and Ant-Man that Wasp: Quantumania, leaving us with high expectations that didn't necessarily get met. Is it reassuring to you to see all of these different reactions being like, oh God, guys, it's amazing?
Oh, yeah, I guess. But like you said, I sort of expected this. So I guess the flip side would have been I would have been shocked had the reviews been, oh, this doesn't live up to my expectations, or this sucks, or, I think that would have been similar to the Michael Keaton thing. I think that would have been the news. This is more par for the course. I'm happy to see it. God, we needed it. And I was not excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and walked out of the theater enjoying it more than I expected myself to. But I think generally, societally, we might need a reset and a faith bringer. And this should be that project. It's been obviously another long journey to get this movie, but a lot of emotions involved, and a franchise that came out of nowhere, and that a lot of people resonated with, because similar to, there was a time when liking this kind of media wasn't necessarily the norm, and this was the project for outsiders, for misfits, for people who didn't feel like they belonged, and they found solace in this. So yeah, I think it makes sense for all of this stuff. I'm elated to hear that these reviews are this positive, and I'm scared to see this movie in the best ways, but I know I'm going to be feeling all of the emotions.
It definitely might break our hearts. We definitely want to bring the tissues. Garrett, when are you seeing this one?
I'm seeing Thursday opening nights.
Thursday opening night. Same with me. How about you, Rich?
I am planning on seeing it Thursday opening night. Worst case Friday, but I'm expecting Thursday because I'm not going to want to miss this one. I cannot bear the thought of going online and finding out spoilers for this movie ahead of time, because I want to see it as fresh as possible.
Yeah.
Same with me. I got to make sure I get nothing spoiled in this one. Ruben, when you're listening to this one back, I got the title I want for the episode right in mind already. It's James Gunn's World, and we're just living in it, because with the Flash resetting his entire DCU and Guardians of the Galaxy occupying most of our brain space right now, with this being, of course, his finale in the MCU, at least for the very, very foreseeable future. Who knows if down the line we get a DCU versus MCU type movie. I feel like with James Gunn running things over there and Kevin Feige running things on the other side, I don't think that's necessarily outside of the realm of possibility here in the long-term future. We obviously need some more characters to be built up in the DCU first. But bringing things back to Guardians of the Galaxy, we're obviously going to laugh. We're obviously going to cry. Rich, I know you were excited about this one as well. How did the critic reactions that we've seen so far impact your hype levels? Did it increase it, or was it more of just like a...
it was definitely more or along the lines of to me. Like, as somebody that got early screenings for Thor: Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp, shout out to you guys too, because it was so fun seeing Ant-Man with you guys in person. That was one of my favorite nights ever.
Yeah, that was great.
It's just really reassuring to me, because I think everybody's expecting that Guardians 3 is going to be really good, because James Gunn has done a really good job with the first two movies. He knows what he's doing. He is the one who made the Guardians of the Galaxy relevant and famous for this era of comic book fans, and maybe all eras of comic book fans, for being honest.
Yeah, they weren't famous before, so.
No. Like you think back to 2012, 2013, and when they announced that there was a Guardians of the Galaxy, literally the general reaction from everybody was, oh,
What?
yeah, literally from the movie. But no, like as for the reactions, it definitely reassured me to some level. Because I know the reactions to all these movies, I really don't take a lot of stock in them, honestly, even as somebody who gives them occasionally for these kinds of movies. I like going in and seeing it for myself anyways, but I am beyond excited to see what happens in Guardians 3. There's a chance that this one could rise up the MCU ranks as a trilogy, the Guardians trilogy, to be one of the best we've ever had if this movie lives up to that level of hype. I mean, we've got No Way Home, the Spider-Man trilogy, we've got the Captain America trilogy. I think the Guardians trilogy has a shot of joining those kind of ranks if it ends up being good.
Easily.
If this isn't a disappointment, it's at worst third.
Absolutely.
Right. It's like it's dependent on your taste, whether you like the Spider-Man trilogy, the Guardians trilogy, or the Captain America trilogy best. Thor doesn't compare. Ant-Man, it doesn't compare. Strange, there isn't a third yet. Black Panther, there isn't a third yet.
Even Iron Man.
So, yeah, Iron Man, exactly. It definitely doesn't compare. And so I think as long as this isn't a major disappointment, it gets bare minimum third, but a strong case for the best.
I think so. Yeah.
Agreed.
We know this one's going to be bringing the tears. We're going to be crying. James Gunn said today that, you know, like people cry in these screenings, yes, but like I don't think it's all sad tears. I think it's a lot of happy tears too. But we know this is a conclusion of a trilogy. We know that Drax, Dave Bautista, he's going to be done as Drax. Gamora has said if the character continues, she would like to see it be played by somebody else. Zoe Saldana said that it is. Bradley Cooper, yeah, never know how often they could get him to just come back and do voice acting. But Sean Gunn said this was going to be the last time he's going to be doing mocap for Rocket the Raccoon regardless. And so that's going to be a bit of a moving on with the character. Chris Pratt said he's always down to come back. We don't necessarily know about Mantis or Nebula yet. It's time for a Deadpool, where the character got his name and his origin that we saw in the Deadpool movie. That's what they had in their little Assassins thing to see who would come back alive. I would kind of want us to each pick a character here. If you like one person that you had to pick is not making out of this movie, who's it going to be? I want to throw it to you first, Rich.
I mean, thank God you're going to me first, because there are a good 2 or 3 characters on this. I think we could each pick a different one, and there's a really good shot of us being right, honestly. But I think I'm going to have to start off with, I think, the choice that everybody is going for, Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, because this is the movie where we're finally getting that backstory on him that we've wanted for most of the last decade. It's been teased heavily in the trailers. I haven't watched the clip yet, but I know what happens in it. That one that just released the other day, about a younger version of him with all the other animal hybrid experiments. One
of which being voiced by Linda Cardellini, which we just met out this week. That is really cool.
Yep, I wrote that one up yesterday. Good for Linda Cardellini. Good little Scooby-Doo reunion between her and James Gunn.
You guys had, this was, I thought this was funny. And I didn't comment on the thread because I saw it was your article and I was like, well, I can't partake in this because I love Rich too much. But I thought it was hilarious because people were making fun of your guys' headlines for saying,
oh God,
Hawkeye actor Linda Cardellini.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Obviously, in context, that makes so much sense. What else are you going to put? That's her MCU character, and you're talking about an MCU movie in the second role that she's playing. Obviously. Yeah. But it's so funny just because there are so many Linda Cardellini fans being like, what is this? And then I just saw some hilarious comments of like Captain America's Robert Redford and all of these different things in there. And I wanted to add it.
I know exactly the post you were talking about. And I was just like, are you, excuse my language, are you shitting me? Like, I mean, we are an MCU site talking about an MCU actress who's playing her second MCU role, but I'm digressing. I'm going down a rabbit hole that I'm not going to get out of.
It was out of pocket, but it was hilarious. And I can't lie to you. It was really funny.
I'm struggling right now.
But no.
That's what I was gonna post until I realized it was you. I was gonna put Thor Ragnarok's Matt Damon. And I was really proud of myself for that one.
You know, I appreciate it. I respect it. But no, I mean, it's very cool to see Linda Cardellini playing a role in this, you know, reunited with James Gunn. But back on my original thought, Rocket, I don't think there's any shot that Rocket makes it out of this alive. He's been, I think, arguably one of the two most popular characters in the Guardians, probably him and I'd say maybe Drax, because Dave Bautista's just done a really good job with the role, and he's really warmed himself up to fans over the years. But I'm really heavy on the Rocket train. I just don't think there's any shot that he ends up out of this alive, especially because it is the High Evolutionary, the one who made him, is the main villain in this movie. It's going to be a battle of wills, emotions, physicality, anger, and I can't wait for it, but I know I'm going to bawl my eyes out. I'm expecting it to happen.
Garrett, where are you in terms of following the footage? Because this has been more than I've realized in recent weeks, or like in terms of recent movies, in terms of like how much they're talking about it. They're releasing like minor plot things. They're showing multiple clips. There's tons of new trailers and TV spots. And the press junket is about to fire up at another level this coming week. Obviously, we talked about our in-person interviews, as well as like I'm going to be going to the press conference, the virtual press conference for it this coming Friday as well. And so there's going to be a ton more coming from these things. I've actually tried to avoid as much as I can, just because like I'd like to go in this with like as clean of an experience as possible. How much have you been following it, and who is your pick for the dip?
I've been following it as minimally as possible. I did see that that clip with the younger versions of the animals. I've seen a couple of the clips, but yeah, I'm trying to not follow it as much as I can. It's hard. It's hard when we all do what we do, but I've been trying. Shout out to our incredible social media manager Ryan, who does not often get that grace, but Rich, I've been going back and forth about like, yeah, Rocket seems like such a goner. Like, I can't disagree with you.
He's like the obvious pick, I feel like, right?
Like, so obvious, but I know James Gunn has said multiple times that sees himself in Rocket, and Rocket's arc has kind of a very similar storyline of his actual life. And I just see him giving himself a win. I hope he gives himself a win. I hope Rocket ends up not biting the dust in this. I think someone maybe sacrifices themselves for him. I think the second most obvious answer is obviously Drax. So I'm going to pick Drax for my pick in the Deadpool, because we do know that Dave Bautista has very publicly said, I'm done with this role. You know, like, I don't want to be seen as this. I want to be seen as an actor who can do other things than just this. But as far as his story, I think it makes sense to have him finally be able to get back to his wife and his daughter and be with them. And beyond that, I don't know, maybe we see a Groot sacrifice play for Rocket, and we lose Groot. I think that could hurt just as bad. I don't know. I've been going back and forth on. You can make, I think, a legitimate argument for most of them, for most of the Guardians to not see the end of this movie. However, I do think there are some likely ones to make it out. Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
The only counter argument I will say on the Groot front before you go, TJ, is that we did see that at the end of the first Guardians, and he did make it out pretty much. I mean, it was a different Groot, but he ended up making it out okay. I mean, it would still be sad if it does stick, but that's my only counter argument to that one.
It would have to not stick, or it would have to stick completely. Like, we would have to not see
exactly
a resurrection of Groot this time for 100% for that to work. I 1,000% agree with you, Rich. We don't see the return of Groot twice, but if that were to happen, it would be a devastating loss.
Agreed.
If we get a high evolutionary giving Groot the Thanos to Loki, no resurrections this time, I will fucking fall my eyes out.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do think Groot is the most safe character of the Guardians.
The most safe.
I do. I think Groot is the safest just because we've already seen him go once. I'm kind of with Rich there. I think the most likely for me is Drax. Not just because of the whole Dave Bautista stuff, which I agree with 100%, but I think narratively, Drax deserves to go out like a warrior.
Warriors down.
There's nothing left for Drax here. Yes, he loves his Guardians family, but believing in the afterlife, believing that he will go and see his wife and daughter, Hovath and Chimeria, I think dying a warrior's death, protecting Rocket, protecting Groot, whoever it is, would be the way I'd like to see him go. I think that would make a lot of sense narratively, and I don't disagree with many movie and writing decisions James Gunn makes. I think the majority of his movies are incredible. I personally haven't enjoyed the portrayal of Drax beyond the first Guardians movie. I thought it was incredible in the first Guardians movie, the way they perfectly balanced, oh, you can use this fool for comedy because of the way that he speaks and the way that his mind works. But also, this is a badass motherfucker who will kill anyone who steps to him the wrong way. And there's not too many characters we've seen with the same strength levels as this guy. But since then, we kind of just see him get tossed around over and over again, and we just see him only used for comedy. So I would love to see Drax get some real warrior moments in this movie, and then if that happens to be the way he goes out, I think that would be interesting. For the sake of picking somebody different, I think my most interesting dark horse that I think could happen will be Star-Lord. I think Star-Lord's Peter Quill has a higher chance of dying than most people realize. I don't necessarily think that means the end of Chris Pratt, whether it be Secret Wars or another multiversal Star-Lord that they bring in for something else in the future. I could see that happening. But a Star-Lord sacrificing himself for Gamora, even though that's not his Gamora, I think could be a very interesting thing narratively as well, especially given all of the Star-Lord with Thanos after he found out about Gamora stuff. I think seeing him use that passion and that emotion to protect as opposed to mess up the plan would be a really interesting change of pace. A character we know is going to continue on is going to be Adam Warlock. This is going to be the introduction of Adam Warlock, but it will not be the end of Adam Warlock. This is likely to be one of the most powerful characters we've yet to see in the MCU. It would be very interesting if we, while I'm on this train of superpowered people we haven't seen yet that fits with Guardians of movies. You know, there were rumors that they cut a whole bunch of stuff from Infinity War with the destruction, Thanos destroying Xandar, and it's rumored that it could potentially be still used in the future as a bit of an origin for Nova and Richard Rider or Sam Alexander. It would be cool to see a potential introduction of one of those characters in this as well, just as we're talking about powered beings that fly around. But bringing it back to Adam Warlock, obviously he was a creation at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, a teaser in the post-credit scene that we've been waiting for for a while. His comic book counterpart was a very big player in the Infinity Saga. He was the one that was going toe-to-toe with Thanos to save the universe. However, he's not always on that side. He's kind of one of these guys that is sometimes on the side of good, sometimes on the side of evil, depending on where his interests align at that time. And he's also just young. He's confused. He's naive. He doesn't always necessarily know where to follow. And if you haven't played the Guardians of the Galaxy video game, really, really recommend, because it's one of the most underrated games of this style that you'll find. It's such great Marvel content. It's so fun. I'm a sucker for games that you get to make different choices that impact the game differently. And this does that so well. people shied away, I think, because of how terrible the Square Enix Guardian Avengers game.
How fucking dog shit the Avengers game is. TJ, don't you dare go easy on that game. It sucked. It was bad.
You remember our draft where I picked the good Avengers video game?
I held my mouth. I held my tongue very politely. I can't do it now. Dog shit. All right, sorry.
Back.
They doing it.
Out of the
Redemption story.
It's a game because it was a great redemption story. It was.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that the same studio made those two games, I have to say.
Talk about a redemption story.
Big time. Big time. And so Adam Warlock is going to be a big part of this. He was a big part of that game is kind of what we were getting at. He was an antagonist / protagonist, depending on parts of the game that you're playing. And I'm sure that'll be a very likely case with this one as well. Rich, what are you kind of hoping to see from Adam Warlock in this one? Is there really the rumor is he doesn't get a whole ton of screen time. Are you worried about that? Or are you kind of thinking, nah, as long as he's cool and flying around, we're going to see more of him in the future anyway?
I'm kind of leaning more toward the second option because I think at the core of this movie, the base of this movie is saying goodbye to the team that we know and have loved for the last decade. You know, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Groot, and Rocket. And I mean, obviously Nebula and Mantis are thrown in there too because they're Guardians and Kraglin. But I think Adam Warlock, what we get from Adam Warlock, I think is going to be really cool. I'm really glad that Aisha is coming back from the second one because I think she was really underutilized in that one, and I hope she gets another chance to shine in this one, especially because Elizabeth Debicki is just a monster of a woman. If you see her in anything else, she kills it. But I'm really looking forward to Adam Warlock. I think Will Poulter is going to do a really good job with this role. I think this might be a chance for him to have like a breakout role on the big screen, not just for Marvel, but for just his whole career. Because everybody thinks of him right now. We've seen obviously him in the trailers and he looks great, but everybody thinks of him as We're the Millers. You guys are getting paid and all that stuff right now, even though that's a decade old. And I think this is going to be a chance for him to really break out onto the scene in an epic superhero role that's on the big screen, really in the public eye. And I'm really looking forward to seeing his performance with it. And I can't wait to see where they go with him after Guardians 3 too, even if he doesn't get as much screen time as we're hoping for in this movie.
2.5 hour movie. He's expected to get around 10 minutes of screen time. You know who got around 10 minutes of screen time in a 2.5 hour movie and still played a very, very crucial role? It was the introduction of T'Challa in Captain America Civil War. That was Captain America's movie, despite so many other characters being there. Just like this is the Guardians of the Galaxy's movie, despite the introduction of High Evolutionary, despite the introduction of Adam Warlock, it's still their story. How do you feel about that screen time amount, Garrett? And what are you kind of hoping for out of this character?
I think the screen time is not really anything to be worried about. I think I don't have them off the top of my head, but I did see a tweet similar to that, TJ, of these characters have had similar runtimes and have made massive impacts. And there was some pretty significant ones in there. So I'm not necessarily worried about the runtime. I am kind of hoping he just comes in, has a really dominant display of force and strength, and we utilize him more often in later projects. I think that's a cool trajectory. I don't think that that's necessarily the wrong path to go. And yeah, Rich, like you said, I do think this is a chance for Will Poulter to not necessarily break out as a massive star, but to definitely break apart from the older version of himself. He is definitely different. He's put on some mean muscle.
It's huge.
He's big now, and it's just a chance to show like you're right. I'm not that boy from We're the Millers. I'm a man. And hopefully that does translate into breakout success. But I think most importantly for him, it's to redefine himself as an actor. And in my ideal world, that is 10 minutes of me showing my dominance and making you excited for the next time that you see me. And the next time you see me, I'm a much bigger player. So I'm excited for that trajectory if that's the case.
And I know also had just real quick. You also had a similar amount of screen time to Black Panther, Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man, and he killed it. That's one of my favorite Spider-Man appearances ever.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Civil War Spider-Man is actually some of my all-time favorite MCU Spider-Man. It just perfectly encapsulates his youthfulness while also showing that like this guy can hang with the big guys. His abilities are better than the big guys. He's still just a little baby though. And so one of the things I just absolutely love about the character, I feel like a lot of people are, I could be way off base. I've been wrong many times and I'm going to be wrong many more times, but I don't think that's the case here. And I think a lot of the general public is missing the mark with what to expect from Adam Warlock. Like I've seen so many comments being like, 10 minutes of screen time? How's he going to be the main villain of your movie with only 10 minutes of screen time? He's not the main villain of the movie. He's not even a villain. Adam Warlock, I feel like, is a lot more likely to end up on the hero side of things than the villain side of things when all is said and done. And that may not be the case. It would be wildly cool if down the line we see Carol Danvers and Adam Warlock just fucking going toe to toe. That would be incredible.
But I do toe the line, and that's great.
Exactly. Yeah, I do think we see both versions going down the line. I don't think that we necessarily get one or the other version in this, or we could get both, or we could get one and then see the diversion of the path later on in another project. And I think that that is a very interesting way to do it. I'm glad you brought that up, TJ.
I think the main villain is going to be Woody Wuji's High Evolutionary.
Absolutely.
So incredible. We have seen how amazing this actor has been in a comic book property with Peacemaker playing Agent Myrn. And I love this so much because you can go to thedirect.com right now and you can find an article and it's the first time, one of the first times Shakuri Uji ever talked publicly about Guardians of the Galaxy and his character High Evolutionary. And he was asked, like, have you met James Gunn? Have you talked to him like about this role? How did you get that transition from Peacemaker to Guardians of the Galaxy? And his response was, actually, the first time I met James Gunn, he butt dialed me. He had my number in his phone. I get a call and I don't know who it is. I can hear his voice in the background and James Gunn butt dialed me. And then we ended up having a great conversation. And I think he's an awesome guy. You know who asked him that question, Rich?
I am pretty sure it was either one of us or it's probably one of you guys. Probably one of you guys.
It was me. Of course, it was me. And so that was for a Peacemaker roundtable with Chikuri Uji and
our first one,
our very first one, and so our very first in-person interview outside of an expo. Full circle here. Ryan is going to be chatting with Chikuri Uji. I'm really excited for that. I can't wait for this villain. We know he played a massive role in Rocket's origin story, being the reason that he is what he is today. And we see these other characters as well. I don't know if this is going to be a character that continues on in the MCU. I could see this kind of following the trend of being a one and done villain like they did with, I mean, obviously Killmonger came back, but he died in that one. And they've done that quite a few times with characters like Hela. Amazing villains, but an actor who is probably going to come back, and not that Chikuri Uji is at the same levels of fame as Cate Blanchett. Why do I always think it's Cate Blanchett when it's actually Cate Blanchett? Blanchett sounds so much cooler. Anyways, who knows if he'll be coming back? Who knows if he'll be a one and done? But this is a villain I'm incredibly excited about. How about you, Garrett?
Yeah, I'm super excited for the villain and for what we've seen. And we kind of knew it was going to be special when he came out completely dressed as the High Evolutionary for San Diego Comic-Con and walked through the crowd and was completely in character. And you knew that he was loving this and he was all in and that he was going to give a great performance. And that is translated so far in the trailers. And I'm sure that's going to translate into the final version of the movie. I don't think he's making it out. I think there's no way that we let him escape this movie for the crimes that he's committed against all the animals. We're going to, for one, Rocket, who we've already have loved for a number of years, but all the animal hybrids that we're going to come out of this movie absolutely adoring. There's no way we let the High Evolutionary get away with these crimes. He is getting smoked by the end of this movie. I'm putting my money on that.
I'm with you 100%. And if you are interested in the animal hybrids from Guardians of the Galaxy, make sure you also check out Sweet Tooth on Netflix. DC characters created by Jeff Lemire, and they're also you can find that one on Netflix. It's streaming April 27th on Netflix. So when you're listening to this, it's already out. Follows animal hybrids, and also one of the main characters who plays a character named Jeopard, and it's actually the same actor who was just Samuel Bisagna's dad in the most recent episode of Ted Lasso. So make sure you check that one out. I got a review coming to agentsofandom.com. It'll be up by the time you are listening to this. And honestly, while I'm chatting about it, keep checking out agentsofandom.com because we got so much stuff coming. Like, this is just me. I got Sweet Tooth coming. Carolina Ravassa, the voice actress who plays Sombra in Overwatch, as well as Raze in Valorant. She has her debut movie called Morgan's Mask, following a cosplayer who really struggles with her mental health in the pandemic. It's a very artistic and intimate look at mental health struggles, and you can rent that anywhere digitally starting April 28th. Got Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story coming out on Netflix that I got a review already up on agentsfandom.com. And so much more. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled to the websites for all of that, including the upcoming interviews from Guardians of the Galaxy we have going as well. Rich, how excited are you for the High Evolutionary? One of the things I'm most excited about this character is in that same conversation with Chakudi Iwuji before, he talked about how this type of stuff is new for him because like he's a very Shakespearean trained actor. Like that's the type of stuff he's done the majority of his career. It's been on a stage and it's been the total opposite of this type of thing. But his character, I think, is going to fit very perfect for someone with a Shakespearean background.
I completely agree on that. I think he has the perfect background for this character. What we've seen in the trailers thus far is this guy's going to be fucking terrifying. Like he means business. I mean, this is a guy who literally put Rocket through literal hell and then some, along with a bunch of his cohorts. So he's gonna have to answer to that at some point. But I think Chakudi Iwuji is going to show the talent that he has and the passion that he has for these kind of roles. One quick thing I want to mention: you were mentioning him coming out in full costume at Comic-Con. Badass move. I mean, absolute king stuff. A couple of people who have done that and have done pretty well in the MCU. Tom Hiddleston did that once for Loki, and Josh Brolin didn't come out in full costume, but he did bring out the Infinity Gauntlet during the Age of Ultron panel in 2014. So if Chakudi Iwuji lives up to those two, I think we are in really, really good shape for what's coming in this movie. And just based off what we've seen so far, I've tried to watch. I mean, I've watched the main trailers and everything, but not much else. I cannot wait to see what he does. I think he's on his way to becoming one of the MCU's better villains, and hopefully the best of the Guardians trilogy. Because I mean, we had Ronan, he was okay. Kurt Russell as Ego was all right too. I mean, the killer twist at the end was crazy, but I think Chakudi Iwuji has a chance to become pretty easily the best Guardians villain that we've had.
And I think if you compare the Guardians trilogy to the Captain America trilogy and the Spider-Man trilogy, where does it potentially fall short of those two? It's the villains. Those other two trilogies have much better villains in comparison to the Guardians trilogy. And so High Evolutionary and Chakudi Iwuji's performance can kind of elevate that to a level of these other amazing villain performances we've seen from Michael Keaton's Vulture and Daniel Bruhl's Baron Zemo, and of course the Green Goblin coming back. If we get one of those type performances, I think that really could catapult this trilogy to high level stuff here. And I mean, one of the other reasons outside of great Guardians of the Galaxy coverage that you need to make sure you're following the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcasts is because we bring on your favorite people from around the industry and we get them to say fuck on camera without fail every single time. And so if you've never heard your favorite content creator in the industry swear, let us know that you want them on the Agents of Fandom podcast and we will bring them on and we can make that happen. And the other thing you can only get exclusively on the Agents of Fandom podcast network. This is not going to be up on the YouTube page. Is our interview with Star Wars Vision's executive producers and the members of the executive leadership team at Lucasfilm, James Watt, Josh Rhimes, and Jackie Lopez. I knew all three of them were Jays. I just always mix up the Josh and the James, but they're all up there. They have had some major contributions to the Star Wars we know and love. And so make sure you check that one out, because you can find that only on the Agents of Fandom podcast right here as soon as this primer ends. Make sure you also listen to the other pods on the Agents of Fandom podcast network, including Ticket to Reality, Fandom Academy, and all of our YouTube shows as well, including The Critics and Damon's Comic Corner. We thank you all for tuning in today. Give us a rating of 5 stars on the podcast network. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Rich, where can the people find you on socials? And I mean, hey, if there's anything more Guardians you want to talk about before we get out of here that wasn't in the rundown, let it rip, man.
Well, one thing I can't wait for is obviously Awesome Mix Volume 3. That's one of the only things I think we didn't talk about. You know, I'm the music guy in this industry, and we've got some absolute bangers on this soundtrack. I mean, specifically, we got some Earth, Wind, and Fire on there. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Can't wait to see how those play into the movie. And no, this one's just going to be, I'm expecting big things out of it, and I'm really hoping that's a good thing to expect, because this one has a chance to, like you said, it could very well live up to the Spider-Man trilogy and the Captain America trilogy. I think at worst, it comes below those two, but above the rest of them, it's got a real shot at being number one by the end of this, if Guardians lives up to what we're all expecting to be. As far as me on the socials, you can find me at Richard Nebens, Nebens. I'm always writing stuff at the Direct. We're working on getting new stuff. We didn't get coverage, unfortunately, for Guardians this time around, but we will be working on getting more stuff later on. I have a fun interview up. It's a little bit old, but I do have an interview up with Dave Dasmalchian from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania from about a month ago. I want to say I wrote a couple of fun articles with him. He is a goddamn national treasure of a guy. I love him. And we've got new stuff coming out every day. And we've got some really exciting stuff for the rest of this year. I mean, Guardians, the Marvels, the Flash, you name it, we'll be covering it.
Not societally, not worldwide, not even at the box office. But Garrett, before we close out, for you personally, what does this movie have to do to be a success for you?
That's a hard question, because I feel like on average, I like things more than most people. On average, there's obviously exceptions.
Not the Mandalorian finale.
Not the Mandalorian. God, don't even sidetrack me on that. The dog shit pile of trash written by 12-year-olds. No, I think to satisfy me, we need to have a strong performance from Chakotay Awuji and the High Evolutionary. We need to have a satisfying conclusion to the team of the Guardians, and hopefully individually their stories as well. I want to feel some emotions. I want to feel sad. I want to feel happy. I want to come out reminiscing over the years that it's taken this trilogy to complete, and what I've felt personally experiencing them in theaters and after. I think this is, for me, one of, if not the most rewatchable trilogies. It certainly means a lot to the outcast inside of me, and I just want to cry a little bit, and I know I'm going to. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into it. I don't want to say I have high expectations, but I'm confident that I'm going to walk out happy.
I didn't give you a chance to prepare for that question. I just sprung it on you, but you executed it perfectly. That was very well said. Final question before we get out of here. Just give me a yay or nay. Does Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 crack $1 billion at the international box office?
Damn, another really hard question. It's possible. It's possible.
I'm going yay.
I'm going nay, but just by a hair. I'm expecting at least 900 million out of it.
Rich is a hater. He thinks
I'm so torn.
bust. Headline tweeted out, Richard Nebens hates the Guardians of the Galaxy. No, I'm just kidding. We love Rich. Rich. We love Rich just as Rich loves the Guardians of the Galaxy. Rich gets trolled enough on Twitter. We're not going to be adding to it.
I'll take it.
Thanks so much. Hey, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Because we love you. That'll do it for our coverage of DC and Marvel today. But we still have interviews with Josh Rhimes, James Waugh, and Jackie Lopez from Lucasfilm talking some Star Wars visions as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And we will see you next week, bringing updates from my coverage at the Calgary Expo, as well as the next time we talk, it's probably going to be after we've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. And so make sure you stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for listening this week. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.